I'm Allie, co-founder of Potomac Beads. I'm going to walk you through this Night on the Town bracelet featuring our tubelet beads. Remember, if you need any materials, you can check the links below me in the video, so that way you can shop with us online at PotomacBeads.com as well as .eu. So to get started, you're going to add a 2mm bead, and I'm using the Potomac Crystal round 2mm in the jet color, a silver-plated wire guard, and then a 12mm crystal ball clasp and magnetic clasp. I have my thread through, and I'm using gray wildfire with a .006 as well as a size 10 needle. I'm going to go back through that same 2mm bead, and I'm going to start where the thread is coming out at the end. I've left just about a 2-inch tail, that way I can tie off the thread. And this is going to pull the crystal kind of sitting flat. You want to make sure that your clasp stays in that loop and that you don't have any wire showing on the wire guard. We're going to reinforce, going through and adding in another thread, pass through our wire guard, sides, through the clasp, and down the other side. If you have a button or a different type of clasp that you would like to use, you'll be doing that as well now. I would recommend, if you have a metal clasp that you are using, to use some of the wire guards. They're nice and they look very professional and finish at the end, and they also save your thread and are less likely to break. So I have my thread in there hanging out with my beads along the side, and we're going to get ready to form our first diamond for our bracelet. So to get our start now, you're coming out of your 2mm crystal, and we're going to add our diamond. I want you to add 4 of your silver Crystal Lab full tubelet beads. You're going to then take your thread and needle to the other side of the 2mm crystal and go back through that same 2mm crystal. Give a nice tight pull, and that will pull this into kind of a diamond shape. Go back through the first of your tubelet beads, circling the thread around. And as you go back through, then what I want you to do is pick up another 2mm round between each one of your tubelet beads, which will bring us back to the beginning of that 2mm bead. The reason that we're putting the 2mm beads on after we add the Crystal Lab full tubelets is because it holds a nicer shape if we add them after the fact, and it's going to keep that diamond a little bit tighter. When you come back to the beginning then here, we are going to tie off that starter thread. So you're going to take the 2 thread ends and give a nice tie, right over left and left over right. If you want to, you can take that original thread and then burn it down, make it a little bit shorter. And I usually keep all my final burns and final cuts to the very, very end. From here, we're going to go on and do our first of our black diamonds, going through, again, that 2mm round one more time. And we're going to work our way over, despite what you may know or think, we're actually doing some right angle weave. And I want you to go through that first Crystal Lab tubelet, go through the second Crystal Lab tubelet, so you're skipping over the 2mm bead, and then come out through the jet 2mm after the tubelet bead. Sometimes it'll go through nicely right there, sometimes you'll need to do it in 2 separate steps. Give a nice tight pull. That completes our first circle, and now we're on to using our black tubelets and getting kind of that silver and black color in there. Unlike the other side, we are going to add a tubelet and then one of our 4mm crystals in that Crystal Lab silver, another tubelet in the black, another 2mm crystal, followed by that same pattern of tubelet, 4mm crystal, tubelet. Once you have that pattern, go back through the 2mm crystal that your thread is coming out of, so that way it circles up around in a circle. The thread's coming out the top, I'm going into the bottom. Once I'm through here, I'm going to go over through the first black tubelet bead, and we're going to add a little bit of extra bling around the outer edge. To do so, I want you to add in 3 of your 15s, 1 of your 2mm crystals, 3 15s, and skip over through your next of your tubelet beads. That puts just that little edge right there. Go ahead and skip over the 2mm bead, go through just the tubelet. Same thing on this side, going through and adding 3 15s, 1 2mm crystal, and then again with the 3/15s. Once you have all those beads on there, you're going to go back through that same direction, going through the last of the tubelets, and then your last time through your 2mm round bead there at your connection point. If you're using a different style bead, different crystal rather than the Potomacs, you may want to have a size 12 needle. That's up to you. Next, what we're going to do is we're going to go through that first black tubelet again, through your 4mm crystal, and then we're going to hang out to add some in the center design. If you like the open design of this, you can skip this next step. You do not need to add the extra to the interior of the design. I'm going to be adding a 15, a silver tubelet, and a 15, going through that 4mm bead on the other side, starting on the same side and pulling the thread to the opposite side of that 4. Add another 15, tubelet, 15, and back through the original 4mm crystal that your thread was coming out of. Give a nice little tight yank, and that adds just that nice silver pop right there in the middle. From here, go through your black tubelet, go through your black 2mm bead, and now we start over. Starting over, we're going to add our 4 of our crystal lab, go in, then circle around, adding a 2mm between each, and continue until you have your final length. Once you have your final length and you have all your little squares for your Knight on the Town, we're going to add the wire guard and attach to the clasp on the other side. As you get to the end of the project and you're doing your last one of your little diamonds, when you pick up your 3 or your 2mm crystal round, that's also when you are going to add your clasps, just like we did in the beginning, where we did the wire guard, up one side, down the other side, put that clasp in there, and this is the other side of the magnet. Always easier if you separate them. If you need to, sometimes you need to open up your wire guard just a little bit, slide that in. Make sure you're going to the opposite side of that crystal round so it sits right and lateral. Give a nice tight pull, make sure it gets down to place where it should be. You see no extra thread showing. And then on to the next position where you're going to add the next 2mm round. Now you'll have an opportunity as you come around and finish off the end of the piece with that last 2mm round to come back to the top of the project with the thread that you have left and reinforce that clasp. I have kind of the perfect amount of thread left to do so after starting with about 5 feet of that 0.006 wildfire beading thread. Going up the end then, after you go through the last piece and do that reinforcing, all you're going to do is tie off the thread along the project, bringing it back down a little bit into the project. So again, go through that 2mm bead, loop around through the wire guard, and through the clasp, back down through the wire guard. The final thing I do as I'm finishing up the bracelet then will be to go back through the design, and that'll be at the very beginning and at the end, and take my thread burner or my thread zap and burn down the thread ends. If you don't have a thread zap, I would highly recommend getting a thread burner. Again, if you do not have one, get in nice and tight with that pair of scissors and tie off the end. The nice thing with the burner, when you are using it, it gives a nice way to also ball up the end of the thread, which makes it less likely that it will actually come off your project. So again, I'm just going to right here with the end of my thread, tie off the thread, and then burn down the edges, and your showstopper bracelet is complete. This would also look great as a necklace, so a fun idea would be to do it in multiple different colors, do it as a necklace, or as a pair of drop earrings. A nice earring would be changing this around here, using a wire guard at the top after going around through this 2mm, attaching it the same way you did to the clasp, and having a nice dangle for that nice Knight on the Town bracelet. Thanks so much for joining me and making this Knight on the Town bracelet. Remember, if you need any materials, I have the links right below me in the description so that you can shop with us online at PotomacBeads.com as well as PotomacBeads.eu. Remember, you can always comment below. Check out our Twitch page as well. Since I did this and designed that there, you can see some different variations. Also, subscribe to this YouTube channel. You'll get regular updates from us here at Potomac Beads. You can also give a little thumbs up and like the video, as well as always share the designs and the creations. Thanks so much for watching, everyone, and enjoy your Knight on the Town.